What's up, everyone? It's July 2022 in the morning, and I'm going to take you on a ride on the historic Conch train tour.
Welcome aboard the World Famous Conch train. My name is Naval. I'm your tour guide and train engineer for the 11:15 tour. We'll be taking off in just a few minutes. We'll cover a few rules of safety before we take off, you guys. But again, welcome to the island if this is your first time here. In the southernmost city in the Continental United States, Key West is also considered to be the oldest city in South Florida. The oldest city in the state of Florida, you guys, that's St. Augustine, which is about 470 miles north of the island. Many of our visitors travel to Key West by boat or plane, but we find it very common to make it here by car. And if you do that, remember, you have to cross over what's known as the Overseas Highway or Route US 1. That consists of about 42 bridges that connect 29 of our islands to the mainland. Thanks to Henry Flagler for completing the East Coast Railroad in the 1900s, you guys. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on the tour. Before we take off, remember there are a few rules for safety. If you look to the left and right of the train, you'll notice the yellow and black safety ropes. Those are reminders to keep all body parts inside the train car at all times and to remain seated throughout the entire tour. As you know, this will be a fully narrated tour covering about 500 years of history here in Key West with about 100 points of interest. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them whenever we come to a complete stop, or when we actually conclude the tour. We'll do our best to try to answer those for you. If you happen to speak to anyone sitting next to you onto the train, no worries. We please ask that you hold your conversations at a low enough volume. That way, everyone else around you can enjoy the tour. No smoking, no drinking of alcoholic beverages, no glass containers, and no vaping as well. If you have any alcoholic beverages, we recommend that you bring them up to your tour guides, and they'll get rid of them for you at the end of their shift as we are on island time. And remember to hold on to your personal items, folks. If anything falls off of the train while we're out on tour, we can't stop you to retrieve it, and that is protected at the state law there. So, we have about 3 stops that we're going to make. Unfortunately, there is one stop that we will have to bypass, which is where we usually take our 10-minute break. But due to construction in the area, it's currently closed down, you guys. So the available stops are going to be stop A, stop B, and stop D for the time being. Once that does clear up in the area, we'll advise you guys. Remember, if you decide to hop off, to hold on to your ticket, whether it's the online copy or the actual paper receipt, that is your boarding pass to get back onto the train. If you decide to hop off any of our stops, they pull into these stations every 30 minutes. And remember, wherever you start the tour is where you want to finish the tour. That way you get the full 70 minutes, you guys. The first stop will be at the intersection of Truman Avenue and Duval Street. That will be the closest to the Ernest Hemingway home, the Key West Lighthouse, the Southernmost Point, the Butterfly Conservatory, the Historic State Park, Port Zachary Taylor, and a few other eateries and attractions that I'll mention when we get into the nearby area, you guys. Again, we'll leave from stop B. We'll travel over to the Higgs Memorial Beach. We'll talk about one of the industries that made the island the richest city per capita for about 76 years, which was shipwrecking. 1 second here, guys. We're getting ready to take off on the tour. We'll talk as far as
So this ticket I purchased just a block away, right before Mallory Square. It was about $43 for the ticket for 70 minutes of narration throughout the old town.
You're all aboard. You're on train number 106, headed out on tour. All aboard! Train 106, headed out on tour. Ho, 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 and away we go. Now, folks, the first thing we'll talk about leaving out of the area here at Mallory Square is just down to your right-hand side. That is the Key West Aquarium, known as the very first tour attraction built on the island, originally built during the Great Depression. And again, that was built in the Great Depression to promote tourism by attracting visitors to the island and helping our failing economy. We still offer scheduled feedings of the marine animals in the aquarium all the way until 5 p.m. this afternoon, guys. And remember, stop letter A up the Conch train will get you the closest to the nearby attractions. It's up on your right-hand side where you're going to find my son's favorite museum on the island to visit on Daddy's time off. There it is, the building with the cannon sticking out in front. Now it is the Melfisher Maritime Museum. Now, for the story of that building, folks, more important than treasure inside, we have to go back to the year 1622. So that was when the Spanish treasure galleons known as the Señora Nuestra de Atocha and Santa Margarita, they sank a total of 30 miles west of the island. And after searching for about 16 very long years, and Melfisher telling his crew members each day, today would be the day! Finally, 1985, Melfisher and his crew members found the mother lode of the Atocha, which contained $500 million in treasure items. Well, that included $60 million in gold alone, silver, tobacco, and different other artifacts. Remember the Melfisher Maritime Museum, folks, that's going to be open all the way until 5 p.m. Stop letter A off on the Conch train will get you the closest. So there it is on your right-hand side, you guys, the entrance into President Truman's Little White House Museum. The large green gates there on your right-hand side, they're known as the Presidential Gates. They date back to the year 1906 when they were first built. Once only open for U.S. presidents that would visit the island throughout the years, such as Kennedy, Carter, Eisenhower, Taft, Clinton, but most notable Truman. So you travel through the gates, you guys, one block up, it's on your left-hand side. Remember, the last tour begins at 4:30 this afternoon. When you take the tour, you're going to find that President Truman loved Key West. Who doesn't? In fact, he spent about 11 working holidays here on the island, and that will consist of poker playing, informal attitude, and wearing tropical-themed shirts throughout the property. Here's for the presidents. Alright, you guys, now here it is on your left-hand side, a tree. Yeah, well, folks, it's not just any tree. This happens to be what they call a grand member of the ficus family, a unique banyan tree, which isn't indigenous to Key West. This was planted here over 100 years ago by Myrtle Crossgrove. What makes the tree so special, guys, is that it forms here, as you can tell. It stretches off to the left, across the driveway, and onto another property. The aerial roots that dangle from the top, those are pretty much trunks of the tree. Whenever they form together, on the bottom of the trunk or the tree itself, again, it forms an entire new trunk of the tree. Very impressive. The largest banyan tree on the island, recorded in Madagascar. The length of that one grew to be 6 acres long. So that is pretty impressive there. So across the street there to your right-hand side is our post office. This was built to look like the brick fortifications on our island known as Martellos. We have 3 Civil War forts in Key West. We're going to pass by one of them later in the tour, and you can compare how similar the actual post office is to the fort itself. That was designed by a local architect named Sonny McCoy. He was elected the mayor of Key West in the 70s, who earned himself a place in the Guinness Book of World Records. I'll tell you all about what Sonny McCoy did, you guys, because I definitely don't want you to miss the official beginning of Route US 1. This is mile marker 0 with the, some of our locals call the paradox of Key West. Again, the official beginning of Route US 1 there, your right-hand side. Then you have the end of Route US 1 to your left. That's also known as the most frequent stolen sign on the island. They steal it around spring break and fantasy fest. You never really understand why they steal our Mile Zero sign so much, when you can buy your own at the gift shops on the corner, less than $9. Kiss. Remember, if you leave Key West, you only use Route US 1. That'll take you up to Fort Kent, Maine, with about a 2,200-mile road trip. So this is it here, guys. Jackson Square, the area that's been used for our county buildings, named after former President Andrew Jackson since 1821. When we formed as a county, that was about 76 years before Miami was incorporated. You also see the old jail there. You see the white wall, the stone building with the windows that have bars in the middle of it, constructed in the late 1800s. Now, before I started here with the Story Tours of America off the Conservatory train, I worked at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office as a corrections deputy for about 6 years. One of the things that we learned with our visitors, being that my main post was intake and release, is that we find our visitors come to Key West on vacation, they leave on probation, and come back on violation. Something that's proven quite good. Now, Sonny McCoy, folks, as I was telling you back there, he was very impressive with, well, this is the thing. During the election here in Key West, when we secured the bag, pretty much for the mayor, he formed some type of publicity stunt. Now, his last stunt, again, earned himself a place in the Guinness Book, and when he did, he traveled from Key West to Havana, Cuba, 90 miles away, on one water ski. It took him 6 hours to complete the challenge, and that was pretty impressive. Now, when he arrived in Cuba, he was arrested on site, being that he wasn't a resident. Later in the week, when they found out he was a local politician here in Key West, they sent him back on the next ferry absolutely free, something that became known as a Key West charm. Now, I want to show you this church here on your right-hand side, you guys. It's called the Sandy Cornish Memorial Church. On the bottom of it, you'll see these circular flags with gold stars in the middle of it. They happen to be very special awards that are given to these buildings through the Historic Foundation of Florida Keys Historic Society. If you're able to preserve your building to look the same exact way the year it was built, or survive a Category 5 hurricane, they present you with a Golden Star Award. I'll show you some more examples of those awards, you guys, later in the tour when we get into the historic district. Now remember, if you're born here in Key West, on this 1.5 long, 3.5 mile wide island, you're known as a conch. We are on the conch tour train, folks. Your tour guide is a Key West conch. I've lived here my entire life, 30 long years to be exact, and yes, that is my age as well. This is the part of the island I grew up in, Bahama Village. We'll see the market sign there made of recycled bicycle parts. Had a rough night before? Well, folks, there they are, the Southernmost bed, where they say you'll find the best Bloody Mary on the island. Searching your phone, the best restaurant in Key West, it might pop up as the Blue Heaven Restaurant. That was once known as a Blue Goose Boxing Arena, where Ernest Hemingway would spend a few days hosting boxing matches as a referee on the island. Bahama Village itself, originally settled in the mid-1800s by the Bahamians, who worked in Key West's early lucrative industries such as salt farming, shipwrecking, sponging, and our tobacco industry as well. Now, on your left-hand side, you got guys, we find the home of Ernest Hemingway, originally built in the 1850s by shipwrecker and merchant Asa Timm, in the gorgeous French colonial architectural style. It was later purchased in 1931 by Ernest Hemingway and his wife Pauline. It's actually given to them as a wedding gift by Pauline's uncle Gus. How lucky were they? Which my uncle was that nice. On the property, folks, you're going to find expansive, beautiful gardens, the very first swimming pool built on the island, and also some descendants of Hemingway's six-tone cat. We offer self-guided tours throughout the day. Hemingway lived there for about 10 years on the island, you guys. While he stayed there, he wrote a few memorable novels. Remember, To Have and Have Not, Snows of Kilimanjaro, and remember to keep all body parts inside the train car. If not, you may end up with a Farewell to Arms, third novel written by Hemingway. So that's the Key West Lighthouse on your right-hand side, you guys. A lot of our visitors wonder what is it doing there, since it's nowhere near the water. Now that's not the original location of our lighthouse. The first one was up the street, built of brick in 1828. However, the Atlanta hurricane of 1846 destroyed the original lighthouse. Well, it didn't stand a chance being built of brick when it was struck with 200-mile-an-hour sustained winds. Came crumbling down on top of the lighthouse keeper, Barbara Bakery. She survived the unfortunate event. Now we knew that we needed another lighthouse, you guys. That was the only way the ships were being guided back into the port. And we rebuilt it. This time it was of concrete. We moved it closer inland and placed it in higher ground to shelter it from the storms. Remember, it's about an 88 spiral step to the top. Once you make it up there, you have a fantastic view of this old town area, today known as Bahama Village. Now, in the early days, you guys, this was known as Gatto Village. It was named after a very prominent tobacco Cuban factory owner who went by the name, yes, of Eduardo Gatto. Mr. Gatto was known for building the very first working trolleys of Key West. They were powered by mules, not gasoline or propane in the early days. They would pick up the rollers, take them across town to the factories, they would roll those cigars, and they'd bring them back home at the end of the day. Stand-up guy, Mr. Gatto, known for building some of the very first libraries, schools, and grocery stores here in Key West, you guys. So down the street is where you'll find the Martin Luther King Community Park and Pool, where we had tons of fun, and one time when we got into a little bit of trouble. Well, there was an incident when we kicked the ball over this fence, we decided to go get it. Ended up being the longest afternoon of our life. When we hopped the fence, we found out that was a communication center for the Navy branch of the military. So you got the Truman Annex Naval Air Station on your right-hand side, again, the housing for the Navy branch. Now, the air base is located about 7 miles north of the island. That's in Boca Chica Key. Now, folks, this isn't a free tour. You got to buy a ticket. Unbelievable. Anyway, getting back onto the Navy there, folks, this area here can consider the housing for the Navy branch, and we've always been considered a big Navy supporting town here in Key West, where the presence of the Navy's been felt on the island throughout World War I and II, the Spanish-American War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Vietnam War, and the Korean War. Here's a salute to the Navy. And congratulations, everyone. You have officially arrived to the Southernmost Point in the Continental United States, where everything is considered to be southernmost. So, kidding, folks, I want you to take note when we take this left here. We're going to pass by the Southernmost House, the Southernmost Point Guest House by the beach, the Southernmost House, the Southernmost Beach Resort. They even got a Southernmost grocery deli store where you can buy a Cuban mixed sandwich. On your right-hand side, there they are, in the flesh, the Southernmost trash cans. Right now, you're the Southernmost Conch train riders. Woohoo! And we are now 85 miles further south in Brownsville, Texas, 385 miles further south in Cairo, Egypt. So you actually make it to Cuba before you might get to the nearest Walmart, you guys. Yeah, there's no Walmart in Key West. The nearest one's 137 miles away, 90 miles from here to Cuba. Now, so on your right-hand side, we have to come back and wait to the Southernmost Mine to take your picture in front of that movie there. A bit of a fact joke, another one. Putting back up on the way, just on your right there, folks, there it is, as I mentioned, the Southernmost house. Beautiful home, built by an author named Thelma Strable, a writer for the Saturday Evening Post. She wrote a book about Key West shipwreck industry known as Reap the Wild Wind. That later became a motion picture starring actor John Wayne. Played the bad guy in the film, probably the only one ever. It's a copycat. Yeah, the Southernmost house. Well, on your right-hand side here, built the Queen Anne architectural style in 1896. That is the Southernmost house in the Continental United States, known as Casa Marina, built by Judge Buddy Harrison Florida Curry. Now, fun fact about that building, all the original electrical work was installed by Thomas Edison while on the island during World War I, experimenting with depth charges. He was later able to forge about 40 underwater weapons for the Navy while here on the island as well, at the Custom Office near Mallory Square. Alrighty, you guys. Now we're going to take a left here, headed on to the world-famous Duval Street. There it is. You'll see it, the Southernmost Point Guest House by the beach. The home of Eduardo Gatto, that prominent tobacco factory owner. Now the thing is, That's not the original location when it was built in 1894. It was there, on your right-hand side, where the Southernmost Beach Resort is today. The only reason why you see it to the left is because Mr. Gatto didn't like the way that the sun fell on his favorite terrace. So he had to move to that side of the road by fuel power. It's been the only odd-number building on the even side of Duval where the address hasn't been changed in over a century. So this is a pretty cool spot here, folks. It's known as the Key West Butterfly Nature Conservatory. The yellow building is just a gift shop where you take a souvenir back from your visit to the attraction. Behind it, you'll see the large glass and greenhouse. They got about 1,000 butterflies inside fluttering around for you to explore. Little birds, tiny turtles. There's actually 2 pink flamingos. Their names are Rhett and Scarlet. They're here in the 1300 block of Duval. Remember, hopping off at stop letter B will get you the closest folks. And we're going to continue traveling down the street here, you guys. The world famous Duval. This is the area where the tobacco industry exploded in the year 1831 when a gentleman by the name of Sir William Wall opened a small cigar factory shop inside the heart of Old Town. At that time, folks, 1/3 of the island's population were Cuban, and they were hand-rolling 100 million cigars annually. One of the Cubans that made it to the island went by the name of Jose Marti. Now, Mr. Marti was known as a powerful leader for the Cubans when fighting for the independence of Spain. He first came to Key West in 1894. The building that he would use to rally together all of his supporters is here on your right-hand side, once known as La Teresa de Marti, today known as Martida, a restaurant where you can come back out and dine, folks, here on the 1100 block of Duval. It's a brief message from Jose Marti.
It is my dream that every Cuban might be an entirely free political being, as I understand the Cuban of the Key West is.
Alright folks, we are well on our way to stop letter B. That's here at the intersection of Truman Avenue and Duval Street. Feel free to hop off, walk around for a bit. If you want to go take a few pictures, maybe here at the Southermost Point, I'll list a few attractions that are nearby. Remember, you have the Ernest Hemingway home, the Key West Lighthouse Museum, the Southernmost Point, the Butterfly Nature Conservatory, Historic State Park for Zachary Taylor. There's a prayer garden up the street on the church grounds of St. Mary's, built completely of coral rock. It's pretty impressive. We'll show you that later. You also have the Key West City Cemetery you can visit. And if you're hopping off at this stop, guys, please remain seated till the train comes to a complete stop. Now I'm going to bring on Arnold Schwarzenegger. The Terminator is going to come through the speaker. He's going to tell you how to safely disembark onto the Conch toy train.
Listen, if you're terminating your trip at the next depot, stay seated until we stop completely. And watch your step. Use the handrails as you disembark. Hasta la vista, baby.
Hasta ahorita. Hasta luego. If you're hopping off at this stop, please watch your step, hold on to the handrails, and remember the next train will be here to pick you back up in about 30 minutes. If you got your tickets, folks, feel free to take your seats. Thank you for having your receipt there. You can join on. The middle road of each train car will offer you the largest leg space that you guys over there is kind of told. We're going to get some leg space there, man. Trust me. Oh, yeah. All right, folks. There we are. I don't know if this one is. I don't know if it's Australian. I don't know if it's a little bit UK. Got a little bit of both, you know. Got to rub it off just a bit there, yeah?
Yeah. My first time, yep.
You know what I do though? I'll ask you. I'm going to give you you wouldn't believe when I bring you. I stopped there like 5 minutes. If you don't, you stop. Stop for like 10 minutes. You know, like trying to get this time right. But if you don't stop, you gotta drive right. All right, guys, but it looks like we are here. Ready to head back out on tour, folks. Once we have our all aboard from Vanessa, we'll be on our way. All aboard! We are all aboard! train number 106. Headed back out on tour. Ho, ho, ho. And away we go. Back out, you guys. We're going to take a right here. Headed down the world famous Duval Street. Headed down Truman Avenue, actually. Taking a right here. Remember, the safety rules are back into effect, folks. Now that we're back in motion, we have a few new guests joining us here on train number 106. Welcome aboard, you guys. My name's Danilo. I'm going to be a tour guide and train engineer for the remaining of the tour. Should you choose to stay on this train, remember you have the option to hop off at the other stops we have. If you decide to do that, remember to hold on to your tickets. Now, instead of me sounding like a broken record repeating those safety rules, we have a little soundbite system here. We'll bring on a friendly voice, and they'll tell you the rules for us, you guys. Consider this a little blast from the past.
Attention, fellow frogs. This is Truman. A few rules here. First, stay in your seats while the vehicle is moving. In other words, no hopping about. Get it? Keep your web feet and other froggy parts inside at all times. No smoking or alcoholic beverages. And do what I do. Drink Coke, a cola. Get that one? Good. Now watch out for low-hanging branches. They have delicious bugs in them, but they can be dangerous.
Don't try the bugs in the trees, folks, and remember if you happen to speak to anyone to the next seat, to hold your conversation at a low volume. So that's the prayer garden that I mentioned on your right-hand side, you guys. And again, if you look close enough, you can tell it was built completely of coral rock. Said to have been picked out of the surrounding waters of Key West, charged with the island's energy. There was one person responsible for having it be built. Her name was Sister Louise Gabrielle. She was a Mother Superior of Mary Immaculate, the oldest Roman Catholic church in South Florida. Now, folks, Sister Louise Gabrielle, unfortunately, also suffered from 3 severe hurricanes while here on the island in the early 1900s. So just so you have an idea about these storms, folks, Key West is located on the northern edge of the Caribbean basin. So when the tropical depressions begin to form one way or the other, we're going to feel the effects of it, but sometimes, again, unfortunately, placed in the live coast. So in order to fight off these very powerful forces of nature, Sister Louise Gabrielle decided to take her power in prayer. With each piece of the coral rock placed to form the grotto back there, she would say a prayer in hopes that Key West, again, would no longer suffer from the full force of a major hurricane. Dating back to the year 1922 when it was built, we have yet to have the eye of a major hurricane pass over the island, where some locals still consider that a good old-fashioned prayer. And we're never being to cause concern and confusion, as we've definitely been hit by hurricanes since 1922. But remember, the eye of a major storm, being Category 5, has not passed over this island in 100 years. Best of luck to us for the rest of the season. Oh, folks, we know you're on vacation, but welcome to the hurricane season of Key West. It began 2 months ago, and it continues to the very last week of November. So this is what's considered to be one of the oldest fire stations in the entire state of Florida, folks. On your right-hand side, there it is, in the flesh, Old Firehouse, number 3. So they built this back in 1907, folks. At the time, there was only 12 firemen here that were stationed. But if the fires were large enough, they were large enough fires around the island that it could take up to hundreds of locals to volunteer to assist them with the horse-drawn fire equipment. Again, that is on your right-hand side, Old Firehouse number 3, built in 1907. It didn't open until 1908, actually, 1 whole year later, and that was all due to a fire that started inside the building. Imagine that. This is the residential flight area we're going to pass through, folks. Once we clear, I'll be right back with you, and we'll be headed over to the beach, you guys. I'll be right back with you. Feel free to talk amongst yourself. Get to the other side. Hey, why did the chicken cross the playground? To get to the other slide. Alright, that was a bad one. Anyway, we're going to take a left here, folks. We're going to head off to Road Street. That's going to get us over to Higgs Memorial Beach. A fantastic spot to head out and have some fun in the sun. What? There's no sun in the sky today, unfortunately, guys. A little bit of overcast. No worries, hopefully it'll clear up a little later this afternoon, but maybe we should check the forecast. Either way, it's a great spot over at the beach, folks. They got a bunch of courts there. They have Salute, the restaurant on the beach for the best margaritas in Key West. The experience of having or dining in a beach area, a very good spot. You also have the volleyball net there to have fun. Tennis ball courts, fishing pier, the second Civil War fort built in Key West, open as the Garden Club. But the area, folks, has been used as a burial ground for centuries, dating back to the 1500s. Some of the early inhabitants of this island happen to be the indigenous, and the tribes recorded here in Key West were the Calusa. They were known for being a warlike tribe, the Matacumbe, the Takesa, and the Caribe. And the Calusa, they would bury all of the deceased over at Higgs Memorial Beach. It was easier for them to dig through the sand to get beneath the surface. As the bodies of the Calusa would decay, the bones remained. Later, in the 1700s, when the Spanish explorers arrived at this island, they were greeted with bones spread throughout the entire coast. The first official name given to this island was from the Spanish, and that was Cayo Hueso. And you translate that into English, it means the Isle of Bones, or Bone Island. Cayo meaning low flat land, Hueso meaning bone, coming from the Calusa tribe. That was in the 1800s when the English settlers arrived at this island, and the mispronunciation of Cayo Hueso was turned into Key West. Well, Cayo sounded like key to them, and Hueso sounded like west. And that is how we got our name. So Henry Flagler built the railroad, folks. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But I want to tell you this, Flagler Avenue, where it is, folks, it's Flagler Avenue in honor of our hero, Henry Flagler. It's on your right-hand side where you're going to find one of the luxury hotels he had built along the East Coast Railroad for accommodating his passengers coming down on the train. You have the wonderful Casa Marina Resort. And that first opened in the winter season of 1920 here in Key West. I had no idea what it cost to stay there today. I can only imagine, so when they first opened, they said the room rates were ridiculous, overpriced, that's what they said. Starting at $8 to $12 a night in 1920, which included all meals. I don't think you'll find that anywhere nowadays. Now folks, on your right-hand side there, remember this building is fortified, reinforced, hurricane-proof is what we say. The top of it is 8 inches thick. The bottom tapers out 22 inches thick poured of concrete. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. It had to be reinforced, as you can tell, since it's literally here by the beach. And that's where we've arrived, you guys. Higgs Memorial Beach. You'll notice how calm the waters are. Whoa, not a splash, not any type of wave, no crashing wave is that. Barely any ripple, no caps in the wave, nothing there. There's a reason for it. 5 miles offshore is where you're going to find the third largest living coral reef in the world. It is impressively long, as it forms in Miami, Florida, and stretches to the top of Key Biscayne, all the way down to the dry Tortugas. The length of that reef is 170 miles long. The large waves crash to the reef. They sort of flatten out and swallow, which that's those usual calm waters, sometimes a little bit choppy. And remember, if you come back out here, guys, there's a few things you can enjoy in the Civil War fort that we're going to pass by in a minute. Salute, the restaurant on the beach, and one of the only things we offered for free in Key West here at the beach. No, it's not free margaritas at the restaurant, you guys. You're not going to get that there. But free parking at the beach until 10 p.m. this afternoon. Take advantage of that. Now you make it back out here, folks. Remember, this is a breeding area for the Key West chickens. And again, as I mentioned, they will sometimes cross the playground to get to that slide. They're out there on the playground with the kids, you guys. No doubt about it. They are protected animals. I've actually seen these chickens cross the road better than some adults who've been on Duval Street for only 2 minutes, where you have 117 bars on that 14-block road alone. So this is it, guys. This is what they call the West Martello Garden Club. They built this back in Alabama. They built that back in it was actually 1861. They stopped building in 1867. That was all due to the development of the rifled cannons. Since the cannons can penetrate the brick structure, the entire fort is obsolete. Today known as our garden club at the West Martello. Now just past the beach here, you're going to see the little fishing pier, you guys. Now that fishing pier is what the locals call the Unfitted bridge to Cuba, being that we're 90 miles away, Key West, from the island nation Cuba itself. It's just a great spot for pier fishing. We have about 600 different varieties of marine animals you'll find in our surrounding waters. Tons of them swim in the back of that pier. Taking a left here, guys, we're going to head on to White Street. 8 blocks up the road, we'll take a left onto Petronia, and then we'll head back into the historic district. There they are, the little bocce courts. Again, if you want to come back out, the equipment are inside of the recycle bins. You can come back out here and set up shop whenever you would like. The original Sonny McCoy, the mayor of Key West in the 70s, his indigenous park. Here to your right, now known as the Key West Wildlife Center. But this area is where we really want to talk about, folks. to your left here, this is one of the spots where the shipwreckers of Key West was set up shop. Remember, shipwrecking made this island the richest city per capita for 76 years. What they did is they built these towers that were wooden structures. They were about 85 feet to the sky. Now you would notice a boat running aground on the reef if you had the proper equipment. When they would send you, again, you built the towers 85 feet to the sky wooden structures. There was only one person at the top. And yes, they only had one responsibility, and the job was to spot ships that would run aground against the reef. Whenever a wreck was spotted here in Key West, a cry can be heard throughout the entire town. Wreck on the train, but remember, it is our job, our responsibility to let every sea captain know if we are there, the young folks watching. We gotta let them know that there's a wreck or a wreck has been occurred. By the count of three, we'll call wreck ashore. 1, 2, 3.
Wreck ashore.
It was sort of like calling bingo nowadays. Well, you knew this was a potential chance you win a boatload of cash. Every able-bodied man and woman in Key West at the time of the industry were known as a wrecker. They would rush onto the boats, the sloops, whatever watercraft. They were getting on it and going out as fast as they could. Why were they in such a rush? Well, the sea captain, as I mentioned, that first made it out to where the boat wrecked, was given the title Master Wrecker. The Master Wrecker was able to obtain 50% of the sinking ship's cargo. I want you to keep in mind, you guys. These vessels crossing the Caribbean water, along them, the cargo was mainly from, well, for the pirates, of course, gold, silver, antiques, tobacco, the whole 9 yards. And before you could salvage any of those treasure items, you guys, remember, you had to save the sinking crew members. That was the main reason why they were never labeled as pirates. They weren't brutal. And the main objective wasn't to sabotage your boat and steal your booty. Now, if you wrecked your boat before you back to Key West, we were the closest port. You had nowhere to go. We'd offer you shelter, food, water, feed on the lakes to offer you medical care. And once you were here, well, on the island and safe away from where you wrecked your boat, to keep things fair, you guys, that's when we left back out and stole your stuff. Again, you're going to lose it anyway, and we also saved your life, so that was a bit of a fair trade. Remember, shipwrecking once made this island the richest city per capita, but that was until 1925. Around the time of that, the industry, the navigational aids on the reef were invented. The boats were navigating around that reef, no longer running aground, you guys. Now remember, you guys, if you want some more history on shipwrecking today, you got the Key West Shipwreck Treasure Museum. That's here on the Lake Avenue. The Key West Shipwreck Treasures Museum and Sails to Rails Museum, you guys. Now we're going to make the intersection here of Truman Avenue and White Street, folks. Remember, this here is the only land entrance into Key West. Route US 1 that we are now crossing at. Coming up on your left-hand side is where you're going to find these little row of homes. Some of my favorite on the island. The 2-story mansions are gorgeous. I like the smaller little bungalows or the little cottages. There they are, you guys. They are all known as a shotgun house. And I call it shotgun house because of the way that they are designed. The front door of the building and the back door, they are perfectly aligned with one another. Rumor has it, it's like looking down an empty barrel of a shotgun when you have the front and back door open. And they also say you take a shotgun and put it through the front door while the back door is open. If you fire it, that round will exit the back door and not hit a thing on the sidewall. Yeah, those are both rumors. There's no way I'd be willing to test that theory, folks. There's no way. I'll leave that to somebody else. For the fact that they were built in the early 1900s before the widespread use of air conditioning. I believe having your front and back doors will generate some airflow. That's all it did. And folks, here it is. A little 1-8 tree on Spanish line. You're going to see they only grow in the summer of Key West. If you get a chance, take some off the tree branch, try it out. Be mindful of your own food allergies. A little green shell there. It looks like they can be grapes, but they're not. Again, those are napons or Spanish lines. Crack open the green shell, a little juicy ball of gelatinous fruit, sweet taste will be waiting for you on the inside. Very fortunate to have a tree especially in your area over here. It's been there providing you with fruit in the summer. Like these lucky homeowners on your right-hand side, you'll see what they got on the side of their house. You got little Chiquita banana trees. They're not quite ready to eat yet, but those are pretty cool to have a little small banana tree in your front yard. You're also going to see the pineapples around the Florida Keys, so they got them growing around here too, and the mangoes, juicy mangoes in the summer. But it's here on your left-hand side, folks. Yep, you guessed it. There it is, located dead center in the town. That is our Key West City Cemetery, but not the original location where we buried our deceased. You know where everyone likes to take their picture in front of that big stone statue of a buoy? Yeah, that's the Southernmost Point. Guess what? That was the original burial ground of Key West in the 1800s. It was known as the Settler Cemetery. That's why they'll say you never know what or who is underfoot in that area. They moved it to the middle of town, folks, all due to the Havana hurricane of 1846. Remember how that destroyed the lighthouse? Well, that storm was hungry and it went for it. The rushing waves crashed onto the spit, rushed over the top, came back down, fell deep into the ground, and unearthed many bodies that were buried. The locals went to a frenzy the next morning. They woke up and saw the loved ones no longer buried where they were. So respectfully, they picked everybody up. Every piece they could find, they placed them in baskets and buckets, and they reburied them in the middle of town so they could continue to rest in paradise. That's been our city cemetery, located in the middle of town since 1847, where it's about 19 acres long. But we have over 100,000 that we've laid to rest, and only 25,000 living residents year-round. We are outnumbered by the unliving 4-1. We're going to talk more about the cemetery as we take a left here. You'll also, folks, you'll find that we had a few locals with a sense of humor in their time of passing. There's a headrest in there of a local woman. She was known for being a hypochondriac. When she passed, she engraved on the headrest, "See, I told y'all I was sick." There's another one in there of a local man. He was known for being a womanizer. When he passed, his wife engraved on the headrest, "At least I know he's sleeping tonight." Tisk tisk, 701 Passover Lane is where you'll find this city cemetery. Now this is a little quiet area here again, folks. Once we clear, I'll be back with you. Okay, folks, and again, unfortunately, we will not be able to head into our area when we take our activity bracelet tour. All due to construction in that area, folks. Sorry about that. No worries. It should open back up a little later, but if not, no worries. Remember, our next stop is just around the corner there, but we'll be there in about 20 minutes or so. If you have to cover a little bit more history here as we travel through the historic part of the historic district of Key West. So something else I want to show you here, guys. I want you to notice how some of these door frames, the outer door, the shutters, and even the port ceilings, more importantly, how some of them have been painted a particular shade of blue. So that's not any blue. It's going to be a very powerful blue. It's called paint blue. Paint is a word that was formed in the South Carolina, Georgia area of the color language, a form of Creole. If you go back to the Greek mythology River Styx, how they say a spirit cannot cross a body of water. But that's true, folks. We are on an island, surrounded by two large bodies of water. Whatever dies in Key West remains in Key West, but the spiritual energy releases into the atmosphere. To keep the spirits from crossing into the threshold of your home, you paint your port ceiling paint blue, making confused when they approach believing that it's a body of water. Alright, you guys, now if you look on top of this bench, you're going to see this gorgeous observation deck. That's called a widow's walk, or captain's walk. I'll tell you more about that once you make it up this hilltop. Hold on tight, everyone. We are climbing Solaris Hill. Hold on tight, everyone. Hold on to your hats. Almost there. Ah, you finally made it here, the intersection of Elizabeth and Southern, at the tallest mountain peak of Key West, considered to be 18 feet above sea level. Now, that's where you see the home of 1888, or 1855, rather, built near the left in a Bahamian architectural style. At the top, you'll see them get over the widow's walk or captain's walk. Again, the captain's walk. Remember how I mentioned they built those towers along the beach? The spots the ships that were gone on Street in the early days? Well, if you built one on top of your two-story building here in Old Town, and the sea captain, they would give you an advantage to spot the ship yourself first, not having to call wreck ashore. And you didn't have to pay anyone at the end of the week. I think that's the main reason they did it. If you can't get something done right, do it yourself. Again, infamously given the nickname, the Widow's Walk. So at nighttime, if the lighthouse of Key West became inactive, it became the wife's responsibility to safely guide her husband back into the port. What she would do, folks, is climb to the top of the tower, only with a lantern, in an attempt to guide her husband safely back. However, those storm conditions, whether it's the winds or the rushing waves, proved to be a bit too much for the captain to handle. Never making it back to his wife, said to have left them pacing back and forth, earning the nickname the Widow's Walk. Now if you look to your left on top of the restaurant Sarah Beth's, you'll see a third and final example of the Widow's Walk, just at the top of the finer dining restaurant there. That's pretty cool, folks. So if you see this beautiful home bed to your left-hand side, now you'll notice that, well, looks like they are starting to paint it, but originally, in the early days, if I'm not mistaken, you could avoid paying taxes on your building by not having your building be painted. Well, it was considered to be unfinished, and if it was labeled unfinished, you didn't have to pay taxes on your building. So that's why you'll notice here in Key West that some of them aren't painted. That is still to preserve some of the island's historic value. I thought that was pretty cool. I learned that just the other day. Anyway, we're going to continue here, guys. Traveling down Simonton Street. Actually, you know what we'll do to avoid any traffic delays and any problems with the construction up there. We're going to take a left here, guys, instead of headed down onto Green. We'll take a left on to Eaton, and that'll get us to the scheduled tour route. We'll be on the world-famous Duval Street in just a minute, you guys. Remember, if you're looking for the Sloppy Joe Russell's Bar, you're looking for Irish Kevin's, the oldest bar in Florida, folks, that's going to be Captain Tony Salute. You want to head and hop off at stop letter A when we get back to Mallory Square, where we conclude our tour. So we got our Ghost and Greystone trolley tour here in Key West, folks. I don't know if you heard about that yet. Definitely check them out today if you get a chance. They start the Ghost and Greystone trolley tours 7 p.m. this afternoon. Or in the evening, they talk about the doll that used to live in this building to your left-hand side. So that's the Artist House, you guys. A former home of one of the most haunted dolls in the nation, known as Robert the Doll of the Otto family. Now, folks, if you want to see Robert, remember, he is now inside of the East Martello Museum. He's one creepy little dude. He stands about 4 feet 6 inches tall, stuffed with a wooden bull known as Excelsior. So this is St. Paul's Episcopal Church, folks, on your left-hand side there. Beautiful church. It's gorgeous when the sun hits the stained glass windows that lights up in there. Very majestic, if you will. This is the third church to be built on the ground. Originally, again, built in 1832. Destroyed twice by 2 severe hurricanes. Excuse me, and once by the Great Fire of 1886. Now that was a terrible fire, you guys. That burned here on our island for 12 long hours. It caused about $2 million in damage. Now, that's the main reason you're going to find these metal and tin roofs. You're going to see them everywhere, especially in the historic district. Look to the rooftops when you get a chance, you guys. Mainly in the residential homes, you'll see those metal and tin roofs. They're used for fire protection. They prevent sparks from leaping from one house to the other. And when, that would sort of contain the fire, again, it wouldn't protect it itself. We had another purpose for the metal and tin roofs. I'll tell you all about it once we make our way further down Duval Street. So this is the Key West Skyscraper, what they call this Key West Skyscraper, built back in 1926. The tallest building in Old Town there to your right-hand side, about 7 stories up. The famous playwright, Tennessee Williams, once staged under the Conch on the 5th floor, who was able to rewrite the play, A Streetcar Named Desire. Remember, guys, if you want to see or have some more history on Tennessee Williams there, we do have a museum dedicated in his honor. That's on the 500 block of Truman Avenue. You guessed it, at stop letter B, Duval Village. Here for the Conservatory train, we'll get to the closest. Folks, if you're looking for your cheeseburger in paradise today, you're ready to change the attitude with a little latitude. It's here on the 500 block where you'll find the original Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville here on the 500 block of Wall Street, you guys. Definitely check them out today if you get a chance. Now, Willie T's there to your left, iconic bar there with the dollar bills stapled along the entire building. How often they try to steal the money off the wall. The old Strand Theater, folks, here to your left as well. Now that was built back in 1946. That was designed, looks like the home to the man in Cuba with the Rococo architecture on the second level of the building. Designed by Juan Cobanel, a Cuban architect himself. It's now known as the fanciest Walgreens on the island. Well, we only have 2 in Key West. That one takes the title. Taking a right here, guys, going on to Southern Street. About 1 block up, we'll take a right, headed on to Whitehead. we'll be back in front of the Monroe County Courthouse and also the Paradox of Key West. So if you miss your opportunity to take your picture of mile marker 0, remember to have your cameras ready, folks. We'll be there in about a few minutes or so. You'll also find when we get back in front of the courthouse, if you missed it the first time, where we have a rainbow in front of our courthouse every single day. It's nothing magical or majestic, folks. It's nothing like that at all. It's a wooden sign at the end of Route US 1. Remember, as I told you, the mile 0 sign was stolen so often, they had to put that one in front of the courthouse in case anyone got sticky fingers again. So as we take a right hand again, you'll see the end of the rainbow. It'll be right in front of a tree known as a K-pot. That tree's pretty impressive. I'll show you in a minute, but anyway. That's on your left here, guys. You can find the Green Parrot Bar, local favorite watering hole today. That was built back in 1890. Originally, it was a grocery store. It was owned by father and son, Anthony and Mario Sanchez. They held jam sessions in the back of that building there, folks. Lots and lots of fun there. Now coming up on your left-hand side, again back in front of the Monroe County Courthouse, there it is, the end of the rainbow. And the K-pop tree. What makes it so special, you can see how the roots are not in the ground, rather above. Very impressive. And also in the early days, before the invention of the synthetic version of the life vest, they found inside the tree bark of the K-pop seed pods. They were very poignant. They would stuff them inside the vest, and they would use them as life jackets, so that's pretty cool. Remember, guys, don't steal the mile 0 sign. There's 2 gift shops. You can buy your own. Don't steal the sign. We're going to take a right here, now headed down Fleming Street. About 4 blocks up the road, guys, we'll be taking a left onto Grinnell. That will get us into the historic seaport of our island. We'll stop there, since we don't have our 10-minute break, folks. We'll stop there for at least 5 to 7 minutes. So you can hop off and stretch your legs for a bit. Remember, you got the option of purchasing your ticket at that museum there. It's only $10. It's the newest museum on the island, too. It's a pretty cool museum. I've been in there a few times. It's called the Sails to Rails Museum. Again, that's going to be right in front of our next stop. You'll have the option to hop off and head inside of that attraction if you would like. But you have to purchase your ticket at the booth. Again, it's only $10, probably the cheapest attraction we have to offer, in my own opinion. Check them out if you get a chance today. It's where you'll be able to journey from the age of Key West shipwreck industry to when every 5 have built the East Coast Railroad. Hold on tight, everyone. Alrighty, guys, heading down the road here in about 7 blocks of the road. We'll take a left onto Canal. That'll get us into the seaport. That's where you're going to run and hop off. If you're looking for seafood today, you got the Conch Republic Seafood Company, the Half Shell Raw Bar, the Waterfront Brewery, a few spots to grab a bite to eat. Crustaceans, Half Shell Raw Bar. Conch Republic Seafood Company. Waterfront Brewery, anything that swims in the surrounding waters, you guys. Alright, here we go. Remember, if you're looking for an authentic taste of Cuban food on the island, you have El Mason de Pepe and El Cimenez. Those are the 2 best spots that you're looking for an authentic taste of Cuban food on the island. I showed you the home of Captain John Lowe Jr. earlier in the tour, folks. Consider your left, you'll see something very similar to it. You can have a captain's walk at the top, but it's built in the Bahamian architectural style. Now notice how the patio porch railing and the top there, the second balcony porch there, folks, they wrap from one side of the building to the other, kind of pushing the building itself in. Yes, that was how they would keep the inside of your home cooler in the hot suburbs of Key West, again, before the widespread use of air conditioning. This next house I want to show you pretty cool. I like the bungalows and the little cottage homes. They're awesome, folks. And this is one to your left. It's one of my favorites. It's known as a Zigzag House. The original size of it was a cottage, larger than the other 2 behind, always. As your family would grow, they would add a cottage behind the existing home. But you see why we call it a zigzag, as the roof travels up, down, and once more. Now, you look, these buildings, they are all wooden structures. Look how close together they are. That's why we use the metal and tin roofs for fire protection. We had another use for the metal and tin roofs. You see how some of them have the gutter systems installed. That was our fresh water source in Key West, before the invention of that water pipeline that we have connected to the mainland. The water posts would simply run down the side of the building. They would collect in the gutters, pass the gutters through a tank, or through a pipe first, and then into that cement tank. That was usually built behind your home. and they can store up to 6,000 gallons of collected rainwater. They're known as cisterns. Again, we still have cisterns on the island. They don't use them as a fresh water source nowadays. They now use them as mini jacuzzis in the summer of Key West, which we don't really blame them for. But, we're going to continue here, traveling down Cornell Street, about give or take 2 blocks up. We'll take a left on to Caroline, and then we'll be heading into Stockton. We'll take that brief break, everyone. So remember, if you're born here on the island, you're known as a conch. A conch is a small snail-like marine animal that lives inside of a shell. We eat that conch here in a few forms, folks. Conch salad, conch ceviche, conch chowder, conch steak, conch British crack, conch fried dogs. Pretty good. So if you're born on the island, you're a conch. What happens if you move to Key West and you live here for 7 years? Well, you become known as a freshwater conch. Our high school football team, you guessed it, they're the fighting conchs. The cheerleaders are the conchettes. Careful walking underneath these trees here. Some of them are palm and have coconuts. And one of those coconuts fall out of a tree, folks, you may end up with a conch on your head. Potentially face first with a concrete with a concussion, leaving you with one conclusion. Alright, enough of that. Now, the Conch Republic itself was born out of response to the United States Border Patrol blockade. The blockade originally set up when the federal government received credible information that illegal contraband. Illegal contraband being smuggled into Key West through Route US 1, so they set up a checkpoint. Right at 18-mile stretch, they stopped the traffic, they searched them, and it stopped traffic, backed them up for hours. Our mayor at the time, it was Dennis Wardlow, knew this would pretty much decimate the economy here in Key West and thrive off tourism. So it was decided to write the government and ask that they lift the restrictions on the checkpoint, which we did. However, our demands were never answered. Since Key West was technically being treated like an independent country, we decided to declare our own independence. But by doing so, we also declared war on the United States, with a small attack of a naval base. You wouldn't believe it. The Conch's choice of weapon happened to be a steel loaf of Cuban bread. They used the loaf of bread to smack the naval officer in the head, and that meant that we were now at war. However, we immediately surrendered to the same exact naval officer at the time of the attack. Since we surrendered to the United States during a time of war, Key West was able to apply for foreign aid in the amount of $1 billion, which we never received as a term of our surrender. It was staged as a publicity stunt, but it got that blockade lifted. Visitors are able to come back down to the island. Now, since legal succession documents were filed, Key West is still considered to be the Conch Republic. It's here in the middle of our flag. If you look there to your right-hand side, you'll see at the bottom of the flag our motto reads, "We seceded while others failed." That was the Conch Republic, established 1982. So this is stop letter D here, you guys. Again, we'll stop here for just about 5 minutes or so to keep up with our scheduled tour timing. And remember, you have the option to purchase a ticket from Laura there at our ticket booth. $10, guys. That's all it is to get inside of the newest museum on the island. That is our Sails to Rails Museum. Smash that big red button. I know it's tradition to not press the big red button in the movie theaters, folks. They see it all the time in the films. But we want you to smash that button. Don't push it as hard as you could. Give it a little tap. And then look to the top of the roof. You'll see the first train cross over the Overseas Railroad with Henry Flagler on it. That was in 1912, you guys. Alright, guys. Again, this is stop letter D. We'll be here for just about 5 minutes or so. And then we'll continue back out on the tour. Hold on to your tickets if you're hopping off and walking around, and then you'll make it back to the train. Remember, that is your boarding pass, the e-ticket or the paper receipt, you guys. About 5 minutes, we'll take back off. Big pizza. First. But you're not allowed to pick the tickets up. The detectives that you're not allowed. No. That would be those. Those are what we call roadkill. Yeah, the public restroom is right behind the Max Sea Garden. Alright, I'm gonna stay here for like 5 minutes. Yeah.
I checked the price of the Casa Marina. It's $4.50 a night right now.
$4.50 a night?
Yeah.
I bet that doesn't include the meals.
Yeah. They're great, by the way. Awesome. Yeah. Margaritaville. Go figure.
He used to work for us.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I'll let you know when you're cleared.
Yeah, baby.
Alrighty, folks, we are clear here. Oh, we have a few guests that will join us. Welcome aboard, you guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome aboard. Those of you that are joining us here at stop letter D. My name is Danilo. I'm going to be a tour guide and trainer here for the remaining of the tour. I'm going to take you guys over to Mallory Square to get you onto the train that will be leaving at 12:45. We got a few rules for safety we have to cover, folks, before we take off.
Hey, Jack here. You want the truth? Can you handle the truth? Well, ain't this grand? We're on the ride of our lives, man. Listen, you better stay in your seats. And hey, no smoking or booze on this ride. This ain't the 60s, you know. And listen, try to keep your arms, legs, and the rest of your body parts inside at all times. You might want to keep an eye out for low-hanging branches.
We're going to take off.
You wouldn't want to get slapped by one now, would you? Get a cuckoo's nest right on your head.
The run right around the corner. If you want to hop on, I'll stop there and see if he's there. Yeah, we'll take a left. Did he go around the Maxi Garden building? Yes. Okay, we'll head over there and see if we can find him. Or not. Here, you can hop on. We'll pull up a little closer for him. And remember, folks, if you happen to speak to anyone sitting next to you onto the train, hold your conversation at a low enough volume. That way everyone else around you can enjoy the tour. Back on the tour, folks. Ho, 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 and away we go.
I know, he's going to stop.
Alrighty, folks, back on the tour here, traveling through the historic seaport where we love to ride the train. Love the sea shanty, folks, inside the historic seaport. Down on you. Oh, you still waiting for another guest?
Yeah, It's all right.
He didn't, yeah.
We'll wait for the
I
next
guess
one.
he's interested.
You want to wait for the next one?
Yeah, we will.
It's way back behind there, you guys. It's stop letter D. That one's going to take off in 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Now, if you look down the street there to your right-hand side, you guys, that's where you're going to find the Schooner Wharf Bar, just down Lazy Way Lane. Folks, the Schooner Wharf Bar, they still consider themselves the last slice of old Key West. Being that they operate the seaport, they have been since the late 1800s. They're mainly known for having the earliest happy hour on the island, when they begin drinking 7 a.m. in the morning, just at the crack of dawn. Now, folks, I want you to look at this building here. As we pull out of the seaport, you'll see left inside there, very historic. That's known as the Red Door Saloon or the Red Door Tavern. Built back in 1868. Wow, that's a fish frying over there. It's not pretty good. And again, to your left there, built back in 1868, known as the Red Door Saloon, Red Door Tavern, infamously given the nickname the Bucket of Blood for the brutal fights that broke out in that building between pirates and sailors. They didn't get along too well. They spent weeks, if not months, out onto the sea. When they arrived back to the port, they docked the boats at the half-shell rock. And they only expected 2 things in the late 1800s, folks. That was women and whiskey. They found it at the Red Doors. Now, the fights were so brutal inside that building, before you would enter, you would search for weapons. If you didn't have a weapon, they gave you one at the entrance to ensure you a fair fight. Again, in position, Jimmy Buffett once lived in a small apartment above the Red Door Saloon. That's actually where we wrote a song about some woman who had a rough day on Caroline Street. Here's Caroline by Jimmy Buffett. Hey, remember folks, that's Caroline Street just behind us there. That's where you're going to find, again, the Sail Surreals Museum and the historic seaported area of Key West. Alright, you guys, we're going to take a right here, headed on to E Street. This is going to take us, again, to the top of Solaris Hill. Hold on tight, everyone. Traveling here on the world-famous Conch train. Folks, remember the Conch train? Were the very first sightseeing service of Key West. Began January 18, 1958, through the curators Bill and Olive Kroll. Now, when they started the company, there was only one train to take you out around the island, which was number 97. You can still see that same train in the stores today, even after all that time. We gave it some love over the years. But folks, they were very successful, the company, when they opened up here for the Conch train. The first few years, they saw about 300,000 guests traveling on their train, which wasn't too bad. Later along the year, later along the time, I should say, they eventually sold the company and began to travel around the world. Now, whether to the world travels as they were, visiting different continents, they would run into guests that would tell them about riding aboard the train while here in Key West. It was no doubt amongst the world travels that the Conch train officially became world famous. Remember, the Conch train is now owned and operated through Historic Tours of America. We are the nation's storyteller, alongside the Old Town Trolley and the Ghost and Greystone Trolley Tour. You're going to notice a lot of these road closures on our island, around the island, you guys. Again, unfortunately, bear with us as we will be making reroutes of the tour. Again, scheduled tour routes to turn left onto Caroline, come straight down. But we'll take left here and continue back on. As you can tell, there is construction of the road there. Where we are. Wow. But anyway, coming up on our right-hand side here, you guys, we're going to pass by what they call the Wedding Cake Mansion. See, it looks like the top of a traditional wedding cake. That is the William Curry Mansion Inn. It was built 1906 at the cost of $12,000. Not too bad there. Now we're going to make this intersection, guys. I want you to notice this, the building on your right-hand side. You'll notice they have 3 bars in one building. The Bull Bar, the Whistle Bar, and at the top they have the rooftop bar there, known as the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden, folks, that happens to be a clothing optional bar here in Key West. Apparently that was necessary with the humidity in the summer of Key West. Be very careful heading up to the Garden of Eden. There are some things you cannot unsee while on the island. Now guys, we're going to take a right here. And on your left-hand side, we're going to find First Flight. It's Southernmost Micro Brewery, the original ticket office building for Pan American World Airways. Pan Am was a plane service that would carry passengers and mail from Key West to Havana, Cuba. Also responsible for the United States' first international flight in 1913. Yeah, folks, that's what the airport here is called in Key West. It's called the Key West International Airport. The only airport that does not book international left-hand side here, folks, with the Navy left behind, they used this tower here to store an extremely large amount of water. That water was used to refuel steamships that pulled to our port in the late 1800s. We had to figure out what to do with this since it was left behind. So today we use it to store the island's margarita mix. We have a dirty margarita in there. Now in front of you, you're going to find the tower that stands above the square. That is our Shipwreck Treasure Museum. Remember, that's where we're going to be headed to, folks, to conclude our tour. A few things you gotta do on the island. You gotta try, you gotta take your picture from the Southermost Point. You also have to do some type of water activity. And try the Keyline pie. Now on your right hand side of you guys, you'll see the Keyline Bakery. Their cookies are pretty good. I don't like the Keyline pie, but they have what's known as frozen Keyline pie on a stick. That's pretty good. They take a slice of it, they freeze it, put it on the stick, and then they dip it in chocolate. Freshly served, get it from the original Coven Keyline shop. That's where I would go. One second here, folks. Let me see what we're going to do to conclude the tour. Meantime, folks, there on your right-hand side, you'll see it. That is Captain Tony's Saloon, the oldest bar in Florida. Captain Tony's Saloon. You'll see a sign for it on the side of the building there. Green sign. Home of Sloppy Joe's from 1933 to 37. So that was the original Sloppy Joe's bar. The reason why it was moved to the street here, Sloppy Joe Russell got to an argument with the property manager at the building behind us when he increased the stay by $1 whole dollar per week. Decided that was entirely too much to pay. So the patrons inside the bar, pack up the booze, carry the furniture, we get out of here. That's exactly what they did. They moved everything down into your right-hand side of the Sloppy Joe's bar now that you saw today. They've been a home of sloppy since 1937. Sloppy Joe Russell and Ernest Hemingway were fishing buddies. We would have found them in the surrounding waters with one another almost every other day. In fact, Hemingway was very upset leaving Sloppy Joe's bar, you guys. Well, it was his favorite old watering hole. He wanted to take a piece of it with him as memorabilia. Instead of taking a bar stool and maybe a bottle of scotch, Hemingway decided to take a latrine out of the bathroom. That latrine was placed at the Hemingway house, where it's now used as a water fountain for the six-toed cats. How tasty is that? So you got the Papa Pilar's Rum Distillery behind you, the Hemingway Rum Company, and you also have the very first legal rum distillery in the area here on your right-hand side. You can come back out and visit. In 1903, that was the site of one of the country's first Coca-Cola bottling companies, you guys, now known as our bottling court. Now, if you're looking for a beach area here, downtown part of Key West, folks, right up the street, that's where you're going to find, that's where you're going to find the Loggerhead Beach or Simonton Small Beach, you guys. Now, if you take a left here, folks, we'll be headed on to Front Street. We're going to Station. This is where we usually would take that 10-minute break that I mentioned, but unfortunately it was currently unavailable and just opened back up. Now this is where we're going to conclude our tour, and also where I believe we will be starting our tours, you guys. I gotta double check and see. As we can tell, there's still lots of construction around the area. Behind you, you still got the seaport if you're looking for seafood. Island Dog Bar on your right-hand side there, you guys. Just over on your left-hand side is where you're going to find the Two Friends Patio. There's a great spot to grab a bite to eat. And just over on your right-hand side is where we're going to be stopping the tour, or concluding the tour, rather. This is our little gift shop, you guys. You can head inside and grab a few souvenirs. Definitely check them out. Keyline Bakery steak there as well. Now, again, folks, we'd love to hear from you. There's information on your ticket on how to leave a review for the tour. Key West, you got the Key West Facebook page, TripAdvisor. But there is information on your ticket. We'd love to hear from you, see if you enjoyed your tours or if you absolutely hated them all. And we also like to leave you with what they call the national anthem of Key West as you hop off the train. Thank you very much, you guys. Come see me up in the front, folks. I gotta get some information for you to see where we're gonna be starting off our tour. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Watching the sun fade.
how about that, everyone? That was the Key West Conch train tour through the old town. Highly recommend taking it. Danilo is a great guide. Definitely a thumbs up for me. It was a great experience. But hit the like button, and I will see you next time. Bye.